Hey gang, Drex here from DrexFactor.com, and I'm here for those of you planning to teach workshops at a fire or flow festival this season and are curious how to go about doing it. I've been teaching workshops now for about 7 years, and in that time I've learned a whole lot of what to do and a whole heaping plate of what not to do in order to create the best learning experience for you and your students. To that end, I'm going to serve up some of my best practices and tips to help you get the most out of your own workshops. Please note, a lot of this is to the taste of the individual teacher. There are some things that are going to be a good fit for you and others that aren't. Stick to what resonates for you rather than trying to create a carbon copy of what I've described here. Before we dive in, I just want to take a moment to give a shout out to the friends of the channel. Big thanks to Dark Monk, Spenballs, and UltraPoi for helping to make the videos on this channel possible. You can visit them all on the web by following the links down in the description of this video. Now, on with the show. Most of the work for teaching a class or a workshop happens before a single student shows up or a single word comes out of your mouth. It's always a good practice to prepare a lesson plan to organize your thoughts and give your students at least a little bit of structure to work with. Now, this doesn't have to be a term paper. Sometimes just a rough outline will do, so you know what you want to hit up in the order that you want to hit it up in. A great lesson is like telling a story. One idea leads to the next, building upon each other and drawing connections between different things to create a picture for your students. When I prepare a lesson plan, I start by defining goals for my workshop. I try to limit myself to accomplishing no more than 3 goals per workshop, because otherwise I find the workshop just becomes too busy and unfocused. For example, in my Art of Prop Performance class, I walk in with the following 3 goals in mind. Number 1, get students to think of their choreography as conveying a story or emotional impression. Number 2, correct bad performance habits. Number 3, make the class as physically interactive and engaging as possible. These 3 goals then become something of a mission statement that helps me determine what goes into my class and what doesn't. I'll then outline my class in such a way that it supports these 3 goals. Here's what that looks like. The class starts off with a 5-minute warm-up to get bodies moving and minds alert. Then we go into 3 exercises centered around different ideas in movement art that flow artists almost always neglect. And finally, I have everybody in the class write a haiku about their favorite childhood toy that they then translate into a movement phrase to perform for the rest of the class. You'll note there isn't necessarily a one-to-one correlation between each of the sections of this class and each of my 3 goals. But those 3 goals do guide how I tackle each of the sections of the class. I structure it this way because I want the lessons learned from the movement exercises to have an impact on the final piece everybody in the class writes. Again, just like in a story, your class should be structured that if this, then that must inevitably happen. Make your students see the connections between your ideas and concepts. Now, how much information should you be squeezing into your outline? That's a really tough question, and one that I find is better suited to refinement than trying to make estimates at the get-go. Try and put in the least amount of information you think you need to cover the topic, and we'll get into refining this a little bit later. Off the top of my head though, if it's longer than a single page in your notebook, it's probably too long. One quick note on materials needed for a class. You can never guarantee that a festival can provide you with anything, so make sure you're in a position to deliver it yourself if it's absolutely necessary. For this movement class, I bring a set of Bluetooth speakers with me in case the festival can't provide a sound system. So, you showed up to the festival and your students are there. Now what? Well, the good news is that you've done a bit of prep, so you're hopefully not just left hanging in the wind there. But here are a couple things to keep in mind when it actually comes down to teaching the workshop itself. First, you have to talk loudly. It's really tempting just to address the people in the front row, especially if you're nervous. But here's the thing, a bad workshop is not improved by being impossible to hear. A great workshop, on the other hand, can be ruined if your students can't make out what you're saying. Talk to the back row at all times. This will ensure that you're projecting enough so that everyone can hear you. Your front row won't feel slighted and your back row won't be straining to hear you. Second, interact with your class. Get them to move around. Get them to speak to you. The less directly engaged they are in the learning experience, the less engaged they are in what they learn. If you've got a class that's just standing there listening to you, you're going to get 20 minutes tops before their minds will start to wander. Doesn't matter how good the material is. This is just the human brain wandering from lack of stimuli. The more you get your students to directly engage in what they're learning, the better. Finally, the great question any workshop teacher must answer. Do I split the class or not? It's inevitable that you're going to get people of a variety of different experience and skill levels walking into your class. So do you split them by experience level and offer a slightly different lesson to different people, or do you give everyone the same lesson? There's a wide variety of opinions on this point, but for me the answer is to teach everyone the same lesson. I've tried it both ways, and I always feel like when I split a class that what winds up happening is I feel I give several people more individualized instruction, but the quality of it isn't as good because my brain is working on several lessons simultaneously. When I give a full group a single lesson, it's much more focused and much more structured. I know that when we have people in a class that are past the skill level we're aiming for, we get a little bit nervous and want to keep them engaged. Honestly, I find that people more often will stick around for a solid and engaging lesson, even if it's something they already know how to do. That said, tons of people that I respect and consider great teachers do split their classes. See what works best for you. Okay, so you've taught your workshop, you're done, right? Not so fast. How do you know if your students had a positive experience or even if they learned the material? The first thing I highly recommend is doing a brief review of what you've covered in class. Ask the people in your class to get out their video cameras or cell phones as you do this so they have the information to take back home with them. It's been scientifically proven that summarizing information like this at the end of a class leads to greater retention. Help those brains grow. Next, collect feedback from your class. This doesn't necessarily have to be immediate. What I recommend doing is using Google Drive to create a submission form where people can evaluate the material in the class you covered, you as an instructor, and give you feedback as to which parts of the class were the most and least effective. I have a template that I use for my own classes, and I'll go ahead and link to it down in the description of this video so you can take a look at it for yourselves. Bring a notebook with you to class and ask for people's email addresses afterwards. Then send them an email, making sure that all those addresses are BCC'd, that includes a link to the Google form after they've gotten back from the festival. This kind of feedback is freaking awesome because it'll enable you to chart over time the satisfaction of the people taking your classes, your effectiveness as a teacher, and you'll also find that your students have great suggestions you may never have thought of yourself. If you've got a Facebook fan page, link to it on the event page after the event is done, thanking the people who attended your classes so that they can follow your work if they'd like to. Cool, so you've taught your workshop and gotten feedback on it. Now what? Well, it's time to refine what you have and make it a better class. You've taught the class and seen what you thought went well and what didn't. Plus, you have your students' feedback to work with too. Take a look at things that didn't go well. Did your students single them out too? Maybe they should be cut in the future, or maybe you should try to find a different way to go about teaching them. Did your lesson go too long? Consider cutting one or two of the sections out. You might have been getting too ambitious in what you're trying to cover. Hold on to the things that your students found really rewarding if you can. If not, maybe they can be spun off into a completely different workshop. Teach and reteach your workshop to find what works and what doesn't. I have a workshop I've been doing now for nearly 5 years and I'm still refining it. As time goes on, people change will walk into your class with different levels of previously existing knowledge. Adapt to it and keep your workshop fresh. I'm going to offer one more piece of advice when it comes to teaching workshops. Take other people's workshops. Even if it's on a topic you already know. Especially if it's on a topic you already know. See what the teacher does and take notes. What are the things they do well and the things they don't? When do the students start to get restless and why? Being a good teacher means assimilating as much of this information as you can. You are not the source of all good or bad ideas. See how other people work and it'll help you refine your own process. Hope this was helpful. Teaching workshops is one of my favorite parts of the flow experience and one that I look forward to every time I get to do it. What are your best tips for teaching workshops? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching and enjoy the flow. Peace. Hey there, thanks so much for watching my video. If you got anything out of it, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel to help it grow. Special thanks to all of my wonderful backers on Patreon. You guys are the ones that make these videos possible. If you're not a current backer and would like to sign up to support my channel, please visit patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi. Thanks so much in advance.